Geno Smith had an underrated season this year, as he was 14th out of 35 in expected points added, which if you don't know what that stat is, I have a video that breaks it down. It's super useful because it can be used to evaluate quarterbacks, offenses, and defenses, so it's a very versatile stat. In addition to expected points added, though, he was 14th as well in quarterback rating. His supporting cast, which is based on the PFF grades of his receivers and pass blocking, was ranked number 18. So in all, he ranked as my 11th best quarterback. At backup quarterback, Sam Howell is a serviceable option. He was my 32nd best quarterback in the league, so he's an alright option. He's not somebody you want to be a starter necessarily, because he was a bit all over the place this past season, but he is a competent backup because he can make a lot of the throws you would like for a starter to make, and he has enough mobility to get around pressure, so he does have some things you like to see, but overall he just hasn't shown to be very consistent throughout his 1 year of play. As we move to the supporting cast, make sure you like the video if you enjoy it, and also be sure to subscribe for more NFL content. With that said, the O-line for Seattle is really rather poor. They were 25th in pass block win rate and 17th in run block win rate, which are both ESPN stats. Compared to last year, they should likely be even a little bit worse. They only returned 2 starters, both their tackles, one of which, Abraham Lucas, is currently on the physically unable to perform list, which isn't ideal. So, with that said though, they may be developing some, which would help them because they already are solid tackles. Lucas really struggled this past season, but he was good his rookie year. But if they can improve any, that's a really good, nice to have the bookmark tackles set. But on the inside, Laken Tomlinson ranked 53rd out of 79 guards, whereas Damian Lewis was 37th. Olu Watimi is a big question mark at center, whereas Evan Brown was an alright 27th out of 36 centers, and the year prior was 33rd out of 77 guards. Anthony Bradford in for Phil Haynes is a lateral move, as they both had 52 PFF grades, so it's not the end of the world for their offensive line, but I don't feel very confident about it in pass protection or run blocking. Their depth is George Fant and Christian Haynes. Fant has been a steady tackle worthy of starting for a while now, and Haynes was drafted in the 3rd. Since 2019, the average 3rd round rookie pick on the interior offensive line has a 52 PFF grade, which would be good for 97th out of 128, so he should be an alright backup guard. Regarding their weapons, they're really nicely set up. Donkey Kong Metcalf continues to have great success, as he was 18th in yards per game and 5th in yards per reception, really showing that he can win deep downfield, and he makes 50-50 balls, more like 60-40, which is a great asset to have because though it's super important to be able to separate at a high level in the NFL, just being able to win contested catches and give your quarterback an option basically on every single play is a nice asset to have. He works really nicely off of Tyler Lockett as well, because Lockett is a super consistent chain mover. He was 46th in yards per game and 62nd in yards per reception, so he isn't quite the deep threat that Metcalf is, but he's a very solid player in his own right. He is getting up there in age, but he hasn't really shown too many signs of regression. He isn't maybe what he once was, but he's still a very solid receiver. Jackson Smith and Jigba had a bit of a disappointing year, but was still productive. He was 76th in yards per game and 93rd in yards per reception, so he is more of a chain mover than he is a deep downfield ball winner. But it's nice to be able to have that mix of skill sets, which the Seahawks really do have. At tight end, Noah Fant didn't have his breakout year, still being 29th in yards per game among tight ends, but he was second in yards per reception among tight ends, so he was highly productive when he did get the ball. He just wasn't being targeted all that often, but he does have that elite athleticism you love to see for a tight end in particular, so he does have the chance to be somebody that is going to win in deep downfield situations, but also turn short yardage situations into big gains just by being able to outrun players. So he is somebody to watch out for. He's been in the league for a while now, but he still, I think, has room to improve. Kenneth Walker is an underrated monster that was 6th out of 59 halfbacks in PFF grade. So they're really dangerous across the board. They have great receivers and a great running back. Depth-wise, Jake Bobo is an awesome wide receiver 4. At 6'4", he's basically an additional tight end in the run game, but he can run routes too. He's also really good in contested catch situations, as evident by him being so big and physical. Pharaoh Brown is a really solid tight end too that can block well also, and Zach Charbonnet is a good backup running back. So not only do they have the starting options, they have good depth as well, which really makes them dangerous because even if somebody gets injured, they're going to have a competent player to fill in. At cornerback, the Seahawks are about as high potential as anyone in the league. The famed Michael Jackson, yes, the singer, is also still alive and playing cornerback. He ranked 20th out of 127 corners in PFF grade, which may just be one off as he didn't really have a productive year in any other year of starting, as his other year as a starter, he ranked 84th out of 118, but he should still be solid. He did show a ton of promise this past season. Reek Woolen was graded 52nd by PFF. Last year, he was even better, ranking 34th out of 118, but I'll take either rank for him any day. He's a massive specimen at 6'4", and he shows it off in every way except against the run where he really struggles. But he's super physical, and he's great in deep downfield catching situations where he can just use his long limbs to get breakups on the ball, and he's sort of like the DK Metcalf of defensive backs, where he's just super big and super physical, and he really makes contested catches situations much more favorable than they conventionally would be. And Devon Witherspoon is the star of the show. He was ranked 6th best for cornerbacks and does everything at a super high level. He ranked in the top 20 of pass rushing, coverage, and run defense per PFF, so he gets it done in every way. He is a premier nickel cornerback that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. It was just his rookie year this past season, and he was drafted super highly. He was, I believe, a top 10 pick this past season, but he is somebody to watch out for. He is just elite, and I think he's got a chance to even be better this upcoming season than he was last year, which is terrifying. At safety, they're pretty solid too. Julian Love ranked 23rd out of 95 safeties in PFF grade and shines most as a coverage player. He played roughly equal parts in the box and at deep safety, so he's not just good, he's versatile as well. Rashawn Jenkins was graded 70th according to PFF, so he's not very good. He's balanced in what he can do though, but is a little bit stronger against the run. Like Love, he played a lot of free safety, but is more of a box player at heart, so he's at least a competent additional skill set to have next to Love, but he's just not particularly good. Regarding the defensive back depth, Trey Brown is a solid fourth cornerback, and Kayvon Wallace is a really good third safety. So they do have some options, and they do have, again, that really star-laden starting defensive back core. So that's really nice. They have, sort of like with their weapons on offense, they have the star talent, and then they also have depth in conjunction with that. On the defensive line, Seattle is greatly improved. Boye Mafe finished 24th out of 122 in edge pressures. He's alright as an edge setter too, so he's got no holes in his game basically. 2 years ago when Uchenna Nwosu last played, he was ranked 14th out of 129 for edge pressures, so he's a really solid player when healthy. He also shines against the run, too, so they have a good edge rushing duo. They're both really solid pass rushers, and you could do far worse for them as run defenders also. Leonard Williams was awesome, as he was 11th out of 142 in defensive interior pressures. In addition to that, he was a very solid run defender as well, so he's a great piece as well. Draymond Jones had an underrated season also, being tied for 21st in pressures on the interior. He's alright as a run defender, but really shines more as a pass rusher. So they have a nice commingling of talents. As for their depth on the defensive line, Jerron Reed is a great third defensive tackle, as he was tied with Draymond Jones for 21st in pressures. He lacks as a run defender, but that's alright. Byron Murphy, their first round pick this year, looks like an awesome player and should be, as the average defensive interior since 2019, drafted in the first, has a 60 PFF grade their rookie year. That'd be good for a nice 69th out of 142 defensive interior grades. Lastly, Darrell Taylor is an alright third edge. He finished 76th in edge pressures, and he only saw a limited role, so he is a little bit better than that would suggest. But even still, being a third edge rusher and being 76th in pressures isn't bad by any stretch. The linebacker core for Seattle could be awesome. Tyrell Dodson from Buffalo ranked first out of 82 linebackers in PFF grade. He was top 10 as a run defender and coverage linebacker, so he really showed a lot in every way imaginable. But who's to say if he repeats that strong of a year again, because he really hasn't shown that he is capable of this elite of play, and Buffalo seems to get the most out of all their defensive players, so it's going to be difficult for him to repeat, but he has a ton of potential. In addition to his potential, Jerome Baker also has a ton of potential. He was exactly average, ranking 41st in PFF grade. He is strong in coverage, but can be a bit weak against the run, but he is just an athletic freak that has a ton of potential to him, so he's somebody to watch out for as well. Their depth at linebacker is Tyrese Knight, who they drafted in the 4th round. Basically anything you can get out of a 4th round linebacker is found money, so I'm not banking on him being good. So they need to be healthy with their 2 starting linebackers to really be good in the linebacking core. But if they are healthy, they stand a chance to be really, really good. In all, Seattle is a very good team. They have a high-end quarterback that's capable of elite play. They definitely have their weaknesses, though, particularly on the offensive line as they continue to have question marks there. Weapons-wise, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett is a high-end duo, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is a really promising slot option as well that plays nicely off of each other. In addition to having Noah Fant, Kenneth Walker, and depth at all positions, so they are really well set with their weapons. Defensively, Mike McDonald has a pretty full cabinet, as his defensive backs are very strong, particularly his 2 best cornerbacks, and then his defensive line has a lot of assorted talent as well. Linebacker-wise, they have supremely high potential, but it's hard to say if they have chemistry right away or not, and that's super valuable for linebackers. Those are my thoughts on the Seahawks. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section, and also be sure to like and subscribe for more NFL content.